showing my microphone here. Hey. Okay, I'm still setting up here. I'm still centering this camera on my canvas. Welcome, welcome. Hi. How are you, everyone? We are checking sound, checking the camera angle, make sure it's a good one. I think you can see this. I think you can see me. So if anybody's in here, just give a little thumbs up or a wave or a hi in the chat.
Your sound is good, though.
All right.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right. So we are streaming here. Hi, Karis. How are you? I forget because I have my laptop here, but you're there. So hi, Karis. Hello, everyone coming in. Welcome to Doodling with Dallas. I think we've got everything set up the right way here. And I'd love it if more people came in and joined the party. Boy, I don't know how your day's been, but ours has been a little nuts. We got to be outside a little bit today. We went for a walk. The wind is a little strong, but the sun is out. So I am thankful. Good, Karis. Hi, Becca. Hello from LA. Awesome. I have family in Pasadena, so I know that's pretty close. Do you go ever to, what's it called? The art museum that I'm thinking of. The Getty. The Getty. I love it. Okay. Well, why don't we wait for a few more people to come in? And what I'm working with here is I have several things. I have a working travel palette. This is my son's. So this is outfitted with burnt umber, burnt sienna, crimson, red lake, or vermilion, ochre, cadmium. I don't really love cadmium. It's very opaque, and I like the more transparent colors. That's, at the end of the day, just a preference kind of thing. And I've been really liking some other yellows. A comparable in color or hue, I guess. A comparable hue would be gamboge or new gamboge. I tend to prefer that one over cadmium, but they're very popular. So if you have a set that you bought with cadmium in it, it's fine. Just remember that it is toxic, so please don't eat your paint. Oh, okay. To Norton Simon on the free night. Ooh, nice. I don't know if I went out there. I've been out there twice. Perhaps. I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll Google it. Sap green. This is a really nice convenience color. I believe it's a warm green, so there's definitely some warmish yellow in it. And so there might be a warm blue in it. I actually don't know the colors that make it up, but it'd be a good thing to find out, wouldn't it? I've got phthalo blue, which if you're looking for a great phthalo, I recommend Daniel Smith's phthalo blue green shade. That's what I'm using here. That's what John Muir Laws likes. He's totally right. I like it too. He also likes quinacridone magenta, which I have, I believe, difference in my opinion, and it's a good one. Moving on though, we've got Viridian and ultramarine. Believe this is a Payne's gray here, and I'm making sure you see it here. Here's my new gamboge. So why don't I actually just swatch some of these out? That way you can actually see what it looks like on paper. And whatever you're working with, I don't know if you have just tube colors or if you have a palette that you've already made up, or if you have no watercolor at all and you're just observing today and checking it out. Definitely during the live stream, ask any questions that you have. I'm an open book. There are no stupid questions. Also in the replay, you'll be able to put your questions below my video. So I check those every day. So I see them and I will answer you. I definitely talk back. Okay, the last one I forgot to mention was Hansa Yellow Light. So if I just quickly, and a flat brush is really good for quickly massing out your color here. You can also drip a little water or spray a little water into your paint before you start. It kind of reactivates it a little bit. Hi, Autumn and Evelyn. Rainy South Georgia. Oh boy, I'm sorry. Well, the rain is good, but thankfully you get to spend this time with me painting. Okay, so here's my Hansa. I wish the light were coming in. I've got an awkward window angle here that's not great at getting good natural light on this, but it's a pretty neutral yellow. So swatch out your yellows. Why don't we do that together? Swatch out your yellows. Next, I'm going into my new gamboge. Not when you're recovering from a flood. Yeah, for sure not. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. Thank you all for coming, for being here. This is so much fun to do. Here's my new gamboge. So yes, on the video I'm seeing it's rendering quite a bit differently. When you're looking at colors, ask yourself which yellow looks more orange, and that'll give you your warmer yellow if you have a split primary. And I'll talk about the difference between a printer primary and a split primary here in a moment. Then ask yourself which looks closer to green side by side. The weird thing about color is that it's totally relative. So when we had just this yellow up, it looked fairly sunny yellow. Now that we've put a sunnier, warmer yellow next to it, it now looks more green. Crazy. Thoroughly wash your brush out in between colors. So we have a good idea of what these two colors do right now. Let's go into our reds. Whatever reds you have in your palette are available to you right now. Just pick one and swatch it right out onto your paper. Put a bit more water in mine. And I hear my laptop getting a little overheated already. So I'm going to leave some other programs. That way you guys don't get the fish tank effect. Looks like I have a fish, or it sounds like I have a fish tank in here when I get a little overheated. I'm sure a lot of you have been doing stuff online, more things online. Have you been streaming any other classes or doing any webinars and things like that? You'll have to let me know. Okay, I'm swatching out one of my reds. So now I'm going to let you ask yourself the question. Having a piece of paper or a paper towel that you can wipe your brush out and see if there's any pigment left in your brush is a really good thing to have anytime you're watercolor painting. You want a clean brush. Here I'm going into my other red, and I'm going to swatch it right next to this one that I've done, and you tell me which red looks more orange in comparison. I would say this one looks more orange, and this one looks more purple. So that's the question to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out what type of reds you have. So far I'm showing you a split primary. It's kind of a long explanation as to what that is, but basically it's 19th century color theory that said that there are like a warm palette of yellow, blues, and reds. And then there's sort of a cool palette of yellows, blues, and reds. And you mix everything based on that. However, a printer primary, which is the colors that are in your printer right now, a printer uses phthalo blue, cyan is what that's called, and magenta, and a neutral yellow to mix all of its colors besides black. So there's black. So if you ever see CMYK, that's cyan, magenta, yellow, black. And those are all the colors that your printer uses to print any color. So you can definitely mix most every color with just those three. So before I move on to blues here, I want to make sure that I have those two versions of the blues that I'm talking about with the split primary. So I'm going to go into this ultramarine and I'll put it here. Wash my brush out and we will do, I have a little bit of phthalo left on this little palette. These are great if you're trying to just keep your area very clean and you have a couple of students in your room and you want to test out some colors and you have tubes. I highly suggest just taking out a piece of cold press paper and making a tiny little palette for them to work from if you don't have a plastic palette or a ceramic plate to mix on. But I overall really do like tube paints over a pre-made palette. I think you have more possibilities. You can also use them fresh or you can dry them for a travel palette. So they're really nice. So to give you the idea of the difference between this ultramarine blue and cyan, swatch it out right next to each other and you can see the difference. With blues, you'll ask yourself which blue looks more purple and which blue looks greener. So I would say, and I think on camera it's showing up the same way too, that this is my more purple looking blue. So it would be considered my warm blue versus a cooler blue. Now cyan it's pretty neutral because we talked about it being one in the printer primary. So if we just swatch out a little bit of our cyan, and if you don't have these exact colors today, that's okay. Now you'll know what you want to get once you make an online order or get back into Hobby Lobby or a local art store. And with my other printer primary here, here's my neutral yellow. This is a Hansa yellow light. I think I still have a little bit of blue in my brush and it's showing up there. So I'm going to try again, wash it out. Okay. We're going to section this off in, if this is a pie and you're cutting this into thirds, I'm going to have us put a yellow swatch there. And then we'll put our magenta here. The magenta, I'm going to squeeze out fresh. That's not the one I want. I would like quinacridone pink. This is the one I talked to you about. If you can see, it will readjust. So it's Daniel Smith, quinacridone pink. It's a great magenta. So move my area around here a little bit. Thank you again for coming. This is really fun. Hope it's a good break for you today. Good brain break. Here is what fresh tube paint looks like if you've never seen it before. I think, Karis, you are working with sometimes fresh tubes, right? If I remember that correctly. So here's what we have. And once I put water into it, I'm just going to do it brushful by brushful. You don't want to put too much water in it initially, so just take your time. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more so that it's drippy, but also has a good amount of pigment in it. And I'm going to put that right here. You have both, Karis. Okay, good. Hannah Mary 4, hi from Minnesota. Elsa, hello. And you guys are excited to be learning more about color. Well, you've come to the right place. Thanks for coming into the room and the virtual room and doing some color stuff with me here. Okay. So you're seeing maybe even how different it looks from these guys over here. There. But now, what happens when we mix this Hansa yellow light, or whatever your most neutral yellow is, if you can find that in your palette? And I hope you have a magenta. You might want a magenta after today, after you see what happens. I'm gonna wash my brush out. And next thing I'm gonna go into is my yellow again. But I'll be adding it to my magenta. See what we come up with. Tilt it as much as I can here. Okay, I've mixed them in pretty equal amounts. And we've come up with a red. So this is yellow plus magenta. Well, I bet you can guess what we're going to have if we mix these two, right? Let's try it. I'm going to go into yellow first. It's a little bit more subtle. The phthalo is a very pigmented color, so it can kind of tend to bully the rest of them. Don't let it bully the yellow. So it's only going to take a tiny amount of phthalo. And I'll show you, I'm mixing it right there. Just a bit. Just put a bit on there. Made a super vibrant green. You really can't get this green from mixing a warm blue with a cadmium or a new gamboge or a lemon yellow. It really has to be as close to these printer primary, the cyan, magenta, and yellow, to get a green like this. Now I'm working on mixed media paper here in my sketchbook, but if you really want to make your colors shine with watercolor, I recommend investing in some cold press paper. You can find it at Hobby Lobby online. It has sizing in it, so it can take on more water, and it makes beautiful washes because it doesn't do what I'm about to show you here. It doesn't buckle. It doesn't saturate the paper and soak in. Oop, there we go. Hello, Victor. Hi over there in Iowa. I'm in Nebraska, so you're in the next state over. Just got done talking about mixed media paper. Now I'm going to switch over to cold press. And why don't I just tape my cold press paper right to the top of this? Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. There we go. I really like these tiny little sheets of cold press. I believe I got this one at Hobby Lobby, actually. It's Master's Touch watercolor pad, $2.49 for, let's see, 12 sheets. These are postcard size, just saying. Do a little watercolor, write a note to your friends, send it in the mail. Anyone? So it has a more textured side usually. Versus a flatter side. And cold press paper still retains this texture. There is also hot press paper, which is usually flatter because they've pressed it with a hot surface. So think iron when you're thinking about hot press versus cold press. And I will tape it right up top here. And with that, I really love to mix the cyan and the magenta to see what we get there. Let's do this. And if you're just joining, oh yeah, cold press, awesome. If you're just joining, we're just doing a color demonstration here. So with that red that I mixed up right here, just gonna wipe it away. That way I have mixing room for magenta plus phthalo. It's one of my favorites. I want to make sure I have a clean brush since I'm going from one color to another. And I'm putting a bit more in my brush because I think this can handle it here. Beautiful. It's just really nice to mix on a surface like this. You can see it all come together and you can really get the water worked into it. Now, whoop, we're going to put our swatch right there. It's a super vibrant purple. And so if I were to add more magenta to this, it would give you more of a ruby color, but it'd be a very clear, almost like this color. And that's not even rendering. Like it's going to give you some wonderful pinks and violets. Vice versa, if you were to add more phthalo blue, you'd get a blue or purple. So you have a whole range to work with. So I've really been liking the printer primary. I think it's worth investing in some magenta and some Hansel yellow light and some phthalo blue green shade. I also really like Winsor & Newton, the brand. Daniel Smith, of course. Da Vinci paints are also great. And if you're a homeschool family, I really think tube paints are awesome because you can fill, with a 5 milliliter bottle, you can fill 5 half pans full of pigment. So you can get 5 whole palettes out of buying just 3. Well, no, just buying 1 tube of paint per color that you need. So I sort of went over the split primary a bit. This is what you're going to find in most ready-made palettes. So I don't discourage you from getting something like this. They're super useful, but make sure you get something that is able for you to add your own colors to it as well. And you can do that with even full palettes. I'm trying to see if I have one around here. I don't at the moment, but they sell empty half pans, and you can put a little sticky, like a blue tack on the bottom, plop them in your palette, and then you can add colors to your palette that way too. Do make sure with a travel palette that you have mixing space. You want as much mixing space as you can get. Some of these come apart. I think this little tray comes out. I'm not going to do it right now. So that's that. Autumn says something. Okay, you're homeschoolers and you haven't tried the tube yet, but you will soon. I really like them a lot. And these are just, I bought these at a thrift store. I think at Goodwill. They're just old Corel sets. So what, $1 each or something? And each of my students gets one at the table and they get to mix their own paints. And if they're just beginning, just keep their age in mind. Shorter attention span. So I would set the lesson at about 15 minutes. And if it's children under the age of 7, it's probably going to get a little messy. That's okay. Messes are fine. But be prepared with some water, paper towels, baby wipes. Baby wipes are awesome to clean your palette off after you're done, which I do recommend. Starting fresh every time. So I did mix up that little bit of green. So I'll show you the power of the baby wipe is just, it's nice. Very convenient. It gets into all the cracks, crannies. This is totally dried on paint, so my son forgot to clean his out, but it's a good thing to have in the homeschool. Yeah, and like I said, you can, some people make palettes out of old mint tins, like Altoids. So you can stick probably at least 10 in there, 10 little half pans. You can also buy full pans. Just depends probably on your brush. I'll show you real quick. This is about a size, this is a size 10 Master's Touch brand round brush. We'll bring it, there we go. There we go. So this holds quite a bit of pigment. And by comparison, this is the 6 round brush, same style. This is silver black velvet right here. This you can get online at Blick. These you can get in store at Hobby Lobby. I probably wouldn't go any bigger than a 10 if you have to outfit multiple students, because you're just going to spend a little bit more money. And you will go through paint a little quicker with that since it holds so much. Other than that, what I was using earlier is a flat brush. So it's made out of the same synthetic squirrel material as this, but its bristles come out in a fan shape. And so you can use it a little bit differently on its side like this. If you're doing some swatch work, it's easy to just do quick swatches, which I always recommend you do if you get a new palette. Find out what your colors are doing, swatch them out. Other than that, let me know what you guys want to know. If you have any questions in the realm of color, if you struggle with mixing any one type of color, if you still aren't understanding a concept that I just went over, let me know. That's the cool thing about live stuff, is you can just ask me all the questions right now. And I will wrap up here in about 13 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. I'm going to put this here, and I will do a quick brush drawing sketch. And I don't know about you, where you are right now, but it's spring, and dandelions have just been popping up here. So I thought I could do a little dandelion from memory, so you can see what a memory drawing most of my life. So if your memory drawings don't look like mine, that's to be expected, and you're at your own level. Remember that. But to demonstrate the brush drawing concept, how you can take what you learn in basic strokes practice and apply it to a natural object and make it look very lifelike, I'm just going to demo that here. I'll try to talk through it too. I want to make sure I have all my colors. I'm going to go into sap green. It was that convenience color that I talked about having in your palette. So once you've learned the basic steps of brush drawing, it's very easy to use your brush to your advantage. And so you'll kind of develop your own way of using it. You will be getting some practice seeing things and drawing them with your brush. So it eventually just flows pretty naturally. And you'll see me just, I tend to kind of wisp around a little bit, but it's all because I have control with my brush now that I've practiced, used it. Evelyn wants to know my favorite color to mix. Okay. Love greens. Also grays. I really like mixing up grays. I'll usually take a burnt sienna and an ultramarine together, and it makes a really pretty gray. It's a very natural looking gray. So it's the gray of like the bark of a maple tree. It's a warm gray. What about you, Evelyn? You probably have a favorite color to mix. So here I purposefully put a little bit more pigment in my brush so that when the water fell, it would collect more at the bottom and be darker, and the leaves would have a little bit more dimension looking because the darker pigments fell to the bottom and created kind of a shadow. And I'm just doing this from memory. So if I were doing it from observation, I would definitely look at where are the shadows on these dandelion leaves. On the stem, how does the stem come up? What angle is the stem? Is there more light on one side of the stem? Is there a shadow side of the stem? I kind of wish I would have stopped right here so I could get a nice dandelion head right here, but I didn't, so we'll work with it. Purple and magenta, especially dark purples. Oh, I love dark purples. You probably like violets, the flower violets, and lilacs, and oh, I'm not remembering the name of the other purple one. It's the flower that Miss Rumphius plants all over, if you've read that book. Mrs. Rumphius. Okay. Dusty Tori wondering about highlights and shading with watercolor. Is it best to lay down lighter colors first and go back with darker details? It can be. If you're doing a very quick sketch, your paint may not dry in between layers. Usually I'm only sketching 15 to 20 minutes at a time. But if you do have the time to do 2 layers, yes, do your lighter colors first. So if I were to be doing that prior to making this drawing, I would have probably made the dandelion head before I put in the stem, because this is wet and this is wet right now. So if I put them next to each other, it's going to be capillary action is going to take over and they'll start to mix, which is sometimes what you want. You really have to premeditate what you're going for. So I'm going to skip having to mix here with my green stem and my yellow flower head for the moment, but I'll come back to it once it's a little bit drier. Wisteria, yes. Oh, you're in South Georgia, aren't you? Yes, wisteria trees are down there. My mom lives in South Carolina, and when she moved down there, she said, wisterias are my favorite now. They're just my favorite. They're so pretty. Okay, so Dusty, for instance, if I needed to add, now that my stem is pretty dry here, and if I saw a shadow on that side, this is where I would go back and I'd maybe fill in my brush with a little Payne's gray or an ultramarine, something really pigmented, not a ton of water in it. And I'd just quickly do a shadow on that side. And I can demonstrate that here too. I want to add a little bit more bright yellow at the top here. Hi, Avi. What 2 colors am I using for the dandelion? I'm just using sap green and new gamboge, but I'm emptying my brush out, and I'm going to do Hansa yellow light a bit. It's more neutral, and I'm gonna go in straight with it up here. So Avi, I'm just doing this by memory just to show some concepts about color. So I'm not looking at any dandelion right now. So if I were, I'd be a little bit more careful about looking more. So you can see here too, that might have been a lemon yellow. I might not have put Hansa yellow in his palette. The lemon yellows are a bit more opaque. But what you can do if you've put too much pigment in here is you can dry your brush off, pretty much empty of the moisture and the pigment, and then take it fairly dry, and it's sort of like a pigment eraser. It just sucks up the extra paint and pigment, and it doesn't pool so much. So I don't want it to pool so much in the middle there, so I just picked a little bit of it up. Some dandelion stems are like a brownish pink color. So I'll be mixing, I think this was magenta here, and then a burnt sienna, and I'm going to mix the two to get a dandelion stem that's more of the pink ones. And then what if that's just drooping a little bit? I did forget one little part of a dandelion is this little area that's like a bulb here, and it has a little fringe down here. And usually those are the ones that are going to seed. So I'm not going to put any pigment there. I want it to represent white, so I'll leave it the white page color. But I might do a little line sketch around it to note that it's going to make sure this works before I pen it down. Nope. Ran out of ink on that one, so I'll just use a pencil. And usually those just come out in like a little tuft. So show you up close. You can show that it's there without using pigment if what you're trying to paint is white. Think of your paper as part of what you're painting with. So if I even wanted to show that a bit further in this sketch, I'll mix up a quick little muted green, put quite a bit of water in it so that it really falls into the background. I don't want it to upstage this because this moment here is the main point of the drawing is these two dandelions. So whatever I put in the background, I don't want it to upstage the main point, this flower here. So I'm following that little sketch that I did of the seeded part of the dandelion. And hopefully this is looking like I've stumbled upon a flower, and this is what's behind, but it's not that important. So it's hopefully falling to the background. And I do like to kind of side sweep my brush like this. As long as I'm not jabbing my bristles or moving my bristles in this direction, as long as I'm always generally pulling with the stick, it'll keep your bristles nice and working for you. Okay. I think some comments are coming in, some questions. Tried painting hyacinth outside yesterday, and watercolor was drying quickly with the wind. Yes, the wind and the sun. So that's another factor. Isn't watercolor just difficult? it's just kind of its own little beast. So now you'll know what to do differently on your next one, right? So this is just from my memory. I'm not going off of anything here, so I should probably stop before I get it too overworked. But it gives you the idea for sure. And now you can see that this dandelion it's flopping over and it's seeding out, but it's the white of the paper. I didn't paint anything on that. All right. Well, this was all I had planned for my demo today. I am so hoping that you learned something about color, that you are encouraged to go and swatch out your colors if you haven't already. Try some mixing. Definitely get yourself a magenta. I think it will help you make very satisfying purples. Cyan and yellow together make really bright greens. So if you're not getting really bright greens with what you already have, think about those. I have those actually all on my website at bestowingthebrush.com, and you'll find it in the resources. There's a link to art materials. I can also link you in the description box below this on the replay on YouTube. I will put links to what I've used here, or I'll just send you right to my art materials page and you can browse around. I don't have a lot up there. I don't want to overwhelm you with all of your options. So I'll probably link to the brush drawing materials that I really like and the paints. I think that's all on one sheet of paper. But also think about if you have students that are struggling with brush drawing or you yourself aren't feeling confident about it, think about purchasing my course. It's brush, chalk, and charcoal, foundations in drawing. So it's very basic level. I go over brush drawing, and it's mostly brush drawing, and chalk and charcoal make an appearance in 5 videos, but those concepts that you learn with chalk and charcoal also very much translate into what you're able to do with your brush and with any painting going forward. It's going to help you with all the concepts of seeing and understanding what you're seeing and rendering what you're seeing on paper. We also go over memory work, memory drawing, visual measuring, sensory drawing, and a few other concepts about space and light and shadow. So it's a very comprehensive course. I'm thankful because it's being talked about by a lot of moms that really like it, and the CMYK, Charlotte Mason, and I'm not remembering what EC stands for, but they're a wonderful online resource for moms learning more about Charlotte Mason and about building your school curriculum. They have decided to feature it on their website for their families. They are really liking it. Thank you, Erin at Riverbend Press, and Celeste and Amy. Thanks for the shout out on that and for appreciating the course. I'm so glad that you're liking it. And then I saw also that a Delectable Education had my course recommended in one of their Patreon emails. So thank you. I really appreciate your support, and I appreciate obviously what all of you guys do. So keep doing what you're doing. If you guys don't know about a Delectable Education, it's a great podcast. Emily, Liz, and Nicole do that. And it's all about Charlotte Mason and about implementing it in your homeschool. So check them out. And they're on Patreon as well. I've really appreciated all of the Patreon content. Liz is doing a Charlotte Mason Volume 4 devotional, and she's writing that right now. So we've been getting a little bit of those articles to read over, and it's just been great. Nicole's been doing some nature videos and studying your tree in all types of seasons. So it's just great stuff for $7 a month. I think it's a really good deal. So just thought I'd shout that out as something that's helped me. And think about that course. You can watch sample videos. Right now, it's at an introductory price. Between now and May 1st is when it goes to its regular amount at $50. So right now it's $39.95, and it's a pretty sweet deal. So I highly recommend it. Let me know if you have any other questions. Okay. Oh, goodness. Some questions are populating here. Oh, yeah, I've been wondering the best way to mix gray. Well, gray, think about your color wheel too. If you're still in the room, Dusty here. Your color wheel, anything across from it, directly across from, so let me back up. Green, magenta. You can get a neutral gray by mixing anything that's opposite on the color wheel. Orange and blue, red and green, magenta and green, yellow and purple makes some wonderful browns and grays. Definitely play with it. You've got options. Yeah, thank you, Becca. Okay, and then Sarah's 7-year-old has been making color swatches with her watercolor pencils the whole time she's watching. Awesome. I would love to experiment more with colored pencils, watercolor colored pencils. I think that'd be an interesting way to blend things. So, okay, that's all I have for you today. I'm so thrilled that you came and painted with me. I hope you have a wonderful day and that you are staying sane in these times where we have to socially isolate. And I wish you well. So I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.